Have you ever felt like the summers are getting different? Not just warmer, but thicker. The light feels heavier, the air tastes metallic. What if that isn't climate change? What if it's something infinitely older and more terrifying? What if it's a symptom of our planet developing a fever because we are drifting year by year into the sickbed of our dying star? Astronomers track asteroids that might one day threaten Earth, but what if the threat isn't coming at us? What if the threat is us, and our entire world is the asteroid? What if Earth itself is on a billion-year collision course with the Sun, and we're the first generation to finally notice the fall? What if the ground beneath your feet, the very axis of your reality, was not a constant, but a countdown? What if each year, as we meticulously mark our calendars with birthdays and anniversaries, celebrating our journey around a star we take for granted, that star itself is slowly, inexorably pulling us into a fatal embrace? This is not the dramatic, catastrophic plunge of a rogue planet knocked from its orbit. This is something far more insidious. A cosmic whisper of a change so gradual it would be imperceptible across a single human lifetime, yet across centuries, it would rewrite the very definition of life on Earth, transforming our vibrant blue marble into a broiling atmospheric cauldron and ultimately a scorched glassy tomb orbiting a sun that fills half the sky. Imagine the sheer, terrifying grandeur of it. Our entire world, every mountain range, every ocean trench, every city, and every silent forest is on a spiraling trajectory into the heart of our solar system's forge, a journey that would unfold as the greatest, most profound, and most harrowing epic in the history of life itself. A slow-motion apocalypse where the hero and the villain are one and the same, the gentle, life-giving warmth of the sun becoming, degree by incremental degree, an agent of absolute annihilation.
The initial centuries of this grand solar migration would be deceptively benign, masked by the noisy, chaotic fluctuations of our own making. Climatologists would fiercely debate the data, their models struggling to disentangle the signal of humanity's industrial hubris from this deeper, astronomical imperative. The first undeniable signs would be in the cryosphere. The glaciers and polar ice caps, already under siege, would not just retreat, but vanish at an astonishing pace, not as a linear decline, but as a geometric unraveling, raising sea levels not by inches, but by dozens of feet, drowning not just coastlines, but the very foundations of megacities like New York, Shanghai, and Mumbai, creating a planet where the geography is relentlessly and violently rewritten with each passing generation. The oceans, vast and ancient, would begin to simmer, their immense thermal mass unable to buffer the escalating energy input, leading to hypercanes, storms of such monstrous scale and duration they would make our current hurricanes look like breezes, their 1,000-mile-wide eyes pumping vast quantities of water vapor, itself a potent greenhouse gas, into the stratosphere, triggering a runaway feedback loop that would accelerate the heating far beyond any terrestrial cause. Agriculture, the bedrock of civilization, would become a desperate losing game of chess against a hostile sky as traditional breadbaskets wither into dust bowls under relentless heat waves, while previously frozen latitudes become briefly, miserably arable, only to themselves quickly overshoot into barren wastelands, leading to a constant, chaotic migration of billions of humans and the collapse of global supply chains, nations, and the very concept of order in the face of an environment becoming actively predatory. As the millennia grind on and Earth voyages millions of miles sunward, crossing the orbit of Venus and then Mercury, the environment would cease to be simply hostile and become truly alien, a vision of hell sculpted by astrophysics. The atmosphere, thick with runaway water vapor, would create a suffocating greenhouse effect, pushing surface temperatures to hundreds and then thousands of degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to melt lead, then zinc, then tin, rendering the very air a toxic, superheated fluid. The oceans would not just boil, They would enter a supercritical state, a nightmarish fluid-gas hybrid, before their constituent molecules are ripped apart by the immense thermal energy and lost to space in a continuous, planet-wide steam vent, leaving behind a global desert of barren, cracking salt flats and igneous rock, baking under an ever larger solar disk. The sky itself would transform from blue to a perpetual, blinding white haze of scattered light and steam. The sun, a furious, unforgiving orb devoid of a distinct edge, its coronal loops and prominences now terrifyingly visible to the naked eye, dancing across a sky that offers no night, no reprieve, only a permanent, scorching day. Plate tectonics would likely cease as the planet's interior heats and the lubricating water subducted into the mantle vanishes, halting the carbon-silicate cycle that once regulated climate, locking the world into its thermal death spiral. Life, if it stubbornly persists, would be driven into the last, most extreme refuges, perhaps deep lithotrophic colonies in the upper crust, living off chemosynthesis and geothermal heat, utterly isolated from the world of light and air their ancestors knew, the last testament to a biosphere that once painted a world in green and blue.
The final act of this cosmic tragedy is one of utter elemental transformation, a return to the primeval state from which Earth formed 4 billion years prior. As we drift into the sun's tenuous outer atmosphere, the corona, the solar wind would no longer be a stream of particles deflected by a magnetic field, but a constant, sand-blasting torrent, stripping away the last vestiges of our atmosphere atom by atom, scouring the surface down to bare rock. The planet itself would begin to structurally fail, its crust growing soft and pliable under the immense heat, likely tidally locking with one hemisphere facing the star, that side melting into a global ocean of magma that glows with the intensity of a red dwarf, while the theoretical night side might briefly harbor rivers of molten sodium or other low boiling point elements before it too is heated to incandescence. The final moments would be both spectacular and horrifyingly silent. The solid body of the Earth, stretched by the sun's immense gravitational gradient, would succumb to the Roche limit, the point where planetary cohesion is overcome by tidal forces. It would not crash into the sun, it would be torn apart, fragmenting into a spectacular temporary ring system of glowing debris, mountains, continents, and the last traces of every human endeavor ever undertaken, all vaporized into their constituent atoms and ions, which would then spiral inward over centuries, adding a barely perceptible puff of heavy elements to the sun's vast fusion furnace. In the end, Earth would be gone, not with a bang, but with a silent cosmic sigh, its story erased, its memory lost to the infinite fusion fire. A poignant reminder that in a universe of constant motion, even the most seemingly permanent of homes is merely a temporary visitor in the grand, unforgiving theater of gravity and time.